Recording in progress.
This is the Thursday, December 16th, 2021 afternoon session of the Portland City Council. Good afternoon, Keelan. Good afternoon, everybody. Keelan, please call the roll.
Good afternoon. Maps.
Here.
Rubio.
Here.
Ryan.
Here.
Hardesty.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here, under Portland City Code and state law, the City Council is holding this meeting electronically. All members of the council are attending remotely by video and teleconference, and the city's made several avenues available to the public to participate remotely in this meeting. The meeting is available to the public on the city's YouTube channel, eGovPDX, www.portlandoregon.gov/video, and channel 30. The public may also provide written testimony to the council by emailing the council clerk at cctestimony@portlandoregon.gov. Council is taking these steps as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the need to limit in-person contact and to promote physical distancing. The pandemic is an emergency that threatens the public health, safety, and welfare, which requires us to meet remotely by electronic communications. Thank you all for your patience, your flexibility, and your understanding as we manage through these challenging circumstances to conduct the city's business. And now we will hear from legal counsel on the rules of order and decorum. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor. To participate in council meetings, you may sign up in advance with the council clerk's office for communications to speak briefly about any subject. You may also sign up for public testimony on resolutions, reports, or the first readings of ordinances. The published council agenda at www.portland.gov/council/agenda contains information about how and when you may sign up for testimony while the City Council is holding electronic meetings. Your testimony should address the matter being considered at the time. When testifying, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. Please disclose if you are a lobbyist. If you are representing an organization, please identify it. The presiding officer determines the length of testimony. Individuals generally have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When your time is up, the presiding officer will ask you to conclude. Disruptive conduct such as shouting, refusing to conclude your testimony when your time is up, or interrupting others' testimony or council deliberations will not be allowed. If there are disruptions, a warning will be given that further disruption may result in the person being placed on hold or ejected from the remainder of the electronic meeting. Please be aware that all council meetings are recorded.
Very good, thank you. We have one item this afternoon, item 912.
Amend an intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County for the earthquake-ready Burnside Bridge project for staffing services.
This is an emergency ordinance. Commissioner Hardesty, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, council members, and good afternoon to our Multnomah County colleagues who are here today. I see Commissioner Vega-Peterson. We are here today to update the intergovernmental agreement between Multnomah County for the earthquake-ready Burnside Bridge project. This is a critical project for the region, the state, and I am so thrilled that we are at a place where we have partnered to bring this to the City Council. We're ready to extend this IGA so that this bridge can continue, the staffing can continue as we continue to do the work. Commissioner Vega-Peterson, I'm sure will go into the details about this project, but let me just say that it has been an honor to work with the county. The city has made substantial investments in this project, and we are really thrilled that we will be partners in making the Burnside Bridge ready for the it that will be coming. On that note, I am turning it over to Commissioner Vega-Peterson. Is that appropriate first? Yes, I see hands going up and down. Good afternoon, Commissioner. Yes. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Hardesty, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you so much for all of the partnership. Good afternoon, Mayor Wheeler and the other commissioners as well. For the record, I'm Multnomah County Commissioner Jessica Vega-Peterson. So less than 2 weeks ago, we had a series of 59 separate earthquakes, which were recorded off of the Oregon coast, with the highest two tremors reaching a magnitude of 5.8 on the Richter scale. That is a very strong reminder of the high likelihood of our region experiencing a major earthquake. Seismologists have said that we have a 37% chance of experiencing a 7.1 quake or higher within the next 50 years. That's nearly a 2 in 5 chance of a major disaster. And we've seen what has happened in Christchurch, in Japan, in Chile, and elsewhere as a result of major earthquakes. Should our region see a Cascadia-like event, we could see thousands of lives lost, billions of dollars in property damage, and months, if not years, of slow economic growth and a very difficult recovery. The earthquake-ready Burnside Bridge is Multnomah County's top transportation project to complete in the next decade. This project will provide the central city with its first river crossing designed to be in use immediately after a major earthquake strikes. And this is a point I cannot emphasize enough. If we have a major quake, seismologists and engineers expect us to have 0 lanes of traffic, 0 lanes of sidewalk, and 0 bike lanes serviceable thereafter. Hence, that is the urgency we feel at the county to build a seismically resilient bridge. I often think about the New Yorker article from 2015 that so many of us read that vividly describes what we can expect when a Cascadia quake strikes our region. I also think about the thousands of people who might find themselves on the wrong side of the bridge from their family, the first responders that are going to need to cross the bridge in order to save lives, and the material, not just rubble, but food and water and other supplies that are going to be needed to be distributed throughout our city. I think about the importance of this bridge to help with those rebuilding efforts. The stakes for us building this bridge are high, and our failure to do so would be enormous. The city itself has a major stake in this bridge. Fire, police, emergency services, water, sanitation, debris removal, governance, tax revenue, and our economic recovery will all be detrimentally impacted if we don't have a safe crossing. So I appreciate the city's interest in this project, your partnership in getting this bridge built, and ask for your further partnership as we move forward to actually making this a reality. Thank you so much for allowing us to brief you today on where this project stands. We have a lot of staff here to talk about it, to answer questions. I'm now going to hand it over to Jana to continue with some of those details.
Thank you, Commissioner. And good afternoon, Mayor Wheeler and Portland City Commissioners. For the record, I am Jana Papa-Eftimiou, the city's Chief Resilience Officer, and for just like a little bit more, the Interim Director at the Bureau of Emergency Management. As you all know, PBEM's mission is readiness, response, and resilience for Portland, and that means planning, outreach, and policy work that enhances our ability to stand strong in disasters. The pandemic and climate-related emergencies have taken the forefront for the last 2 years, but unfortunately, it hasn't reduced the likelihood of an earthquake at all. It seems unfair that we still face that tremendous risk, but it is one of PBEM's most important tasks. And as Commissioner Vega-Peterson already reminded us, the earthquakes that we saw just this month in Oregon are a continuous reminder that we live in earthquake country, and it's really just a matter of when, not if. One way we're preparing is in partnership with Multnomah County. They have been strong partners in many regards, and the earthquake-ready Burnside Bridge is a great example of a project that's led by another agency but provides great benefit for Portland in a major seismic event and in the recovery period that would follow. The bridge is at the center of our city, in the center of our region. It's on the city's emergency transportation route, and it's just a block from Fire Station 1, which is where we house most of our specialized equipment for urban search and rescue. Having one central city bridge that we can rely on after an earthquake, it will be critical for saving lives and preventing heartbreak, because it will help families be reunited after a really scary earthquake. I've been really grateful for the coordination with PBOT and so many city and county staff that have helped with the planning of this project, and I'm just hopeful that it will proceed swiftly to construction so our city can be more prepared. Thank you.
I'm not sure who did that fancy maneuver, but please introduce yourself for the record. Patrick?
Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioner Hardesty and City Council members. I'm happy to be with you today. My name is Patrick Sweeney. I am the PBOT Capital Project Manager in the Major Projects and Partnerships Group. With me is Megan Neal. She'll be joining us in a second. She's a Multnomah County Engineering Services Manager and the County Project Manager for this important project. City and county technical staff are also here and ready to help with questions when the discussion occurs later on. And that includes Sharon Dalio with PBOT, Steve Drahota with HDR, and Jeff Heilman with Parametrics. Steve and Jeff are part of the county's consultant team. We're here today for your consideration and action on an amendment to the current city and county intergovernmental agreement, or IGA, as we typically call it. And then the county project team will be ready to provide you with a project briefing, but I just have one more slide. So Megan, can you advance? Actually, can you advance too? Thank you. So this is the first amendment to the existing city-county intergovernmental agreement. The amendment is required to continue city involvement in the project. The current intergovernmental agreement, the term ends December 31st, 2021. So just a few weeks from now. And this amendment will extend the terms of the agreement 12 months to expire December 31st, 2022. And with that added time is an additional $500,000 in budget to reimburse staff time for city participation in the project. And that's not just PBOT, that's all bureaus that are involved in the project. And now it's time for project briefing with Megan.
Good afternoon, Council. Again, my name is Megan Neal. I'm with Multnomah County Transportation Division, and I'm the project manager for the Earthquake Ready Burnside Bridge project. Really appreciate your time this afternoon to hear a briefing of our project. In addition to the approval of the IGA, I'd like to share a little bit of what we've been up to since we last came to Council about 2 years ago. And I know we have some new members, so I want to make sure that everyone's up to speed on the great work the city and the county are doing on making the Burnside Bridge resilient. I wanted to first share why the county really feels the Burnside Bridge is the right bridge to invest in the next 10 years to help our region become resilient. I think Jonna and Commissioner Vega-Peterson have already done a great job of mentioning the need for a bridge such as this one, as well as the risk to our region of the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. Next, then I wanted to provide an overview of the recommended preferred alternative for the Burnside Bridge that we published in our draft environmental impact statement just this past February. Then I also wanted to walk through some refinements to that recommended preferred alternative that we are getting community feedback out on today that really bring the cost of the project down so we can better fund it and build it. And then I wanted to close with just what the council can expect from our project this coming year and when we will be back to council for another key approval step. So I'll just get right into it. As you've heard today, again, it's really not about if the major earthquake happened, it is when. Looking at the last 10,000 years, it's been almost 75% past the duration between major Cascadia subduction zone earthquakes. And that really boils down to there's a 1 in 3 chance of the big one happening to our region in the next 50 years, which is the majority of lifetimes of Oregonians that are living here today. We can expect major damage to key infrastructure, such as bridges, roads, facilities, similar to what we see here on the screen that happened in Chile in 2010. It's a similar a city in size as Portland, as well as distance from the off-coast earthquake. The magnitude is also very similar, in 8.8. I just wanted to add additional data points to what Jonna and Commissioner Vega-Peterson provided in terms of the damage that we may expect to our region. It's rather shocking. Up to 27,000 people could suffer injuries because of the earthquake. Up to maybe 1,500 people could lose their lives. And this is in the metro region, Tri-County area. It could displace up to 85,000 people, as well as result in up to $37 billion of damage. And just looking at the debris alone, this could result in 680,000 dump truck loads needed to clear debris from the roads so we can even get back to using them. This equates to 5 times the annual waste generated in the Tri-County area. So we need our roads to get our city and our economy back on track after this major earthquake that's anticipated happening. Now, taking a look at our region's a key network of emergency transportation routes. See up on the screen, you see a map of those routes identified in blue by our metro region. You'll notice that there are colored dots that represent bridges and overpasses along those key routes. The color indicates how vulnerable those structures are to a major earthquake. Green being that they would perform very well, red meaning not so well. So as you can see, many of our key emergency transportation routes will not be usable after a major quake. And many of them are on the state highway system. So it's really about the local street network and local roads that will be relied on heavily after an earthquake. And Burnside is one of those roads. It is a key emergency transportation route. It extends all the way from Washington County to Gresham. It's 19 miles long. And as you've heard today, it is right in the heart of this city, pretty much divides our city north-south, east-west, and is a key link across the river, similar to ODOT facilities. However, ODOT is looking to invest not in our central downtown core, but really in the 205 corridor in terms of bringing goods and services to Washington on down. And they're not really looking to invest in, say, the Markham Bridge or the Fremont. So it really leaves the county and the Burnside Bridge as sort of it's our responsibility to invest in this bridge so people can cross the river downtown. One last highlight is you'll notice that the Burnside corridor in yellow in the center of your screen has relatively few structures and overpasses along it that could collapse and block traffic during an earthquake. So that, coupled with that it's quite wide as a corridor, really makes it a good investment in terms of bringing one bridge up to seismic code. So that ultimately has kind of why the county has developed this project called the Earthquake Ready Burnside Bridge Project. You've heard today, there's 3 key reasons why we need it. 1, we need that seismically resilient bridge so our emergency responders can cross the river, get people and goods and services to where they need to go, and allow families to reunite after the earthquake. And also in the time after the earthquake, it will help our region rebuild and recover and bring jobs back to the downtown core and allow trucks to move debris out of town and just get our region back on track. And then independent of the earthquake, this bridge is almost 100 years old. It has served our region for so long. We are looking to continue to have a crossing in this location that will serve our region for another 100 years. So those are the key 3 purposes of the Burnside Bridge, Earthquake Ready Burnside Bridge project. Just to briefly share where we are today, in the green bar is our environmental review phase, which we began back in 2019. We are looking to wrap up the environmental review phase by the end of next year. As I mentioned, we published a draft environmental impact statement this past February. We are looking to publish a supplemental draft environmental impact statement this coming spring to document the benefits and impacts of the cost refinements that I'll share with you today. We are currently funded through the design phase, so we anticipate starting the design phase next year and extending that until 2025. If we are successful with our funding strategies, we hope to begin construction in 2025 and hope to have something in place by 2030. Next, I'd like to just walk through the highlights of the recommended preferred alternative that we published in our draft EIS, I'll call that DEIS, this past February. And we call that preferred alternative the replacement long span alternative. It proposes to replace the old bridge with a new bridge along the same alignment with the exact same landing points. Now, there's a couple reasons why this alternative rose to the top, and it primarily comes down to the few support structures under the bridge, many fewer than what's out there today. First of all, the fewer support structures in the ground really sets the bridge up to perform well during an earthquake. There's less vulnerable structure that could be damaged by flowing soils or shaking ground. So this alternative really performs well when it comes to seismic resiliency. Also, with fewer structures in the ground, that reduces the overall cost of the project. So this alternative was the least cost alternative of the range that we considered. Additionally, fewer support structures means more open space to key facilities that reside underneath the bridge today, such as the Burnside Skate Park, as well as Tom McCall Waterfront Park, which hosts many events, including Saturday Market. And finally, the fewer supports under the bridge, the less impact the structure has on environmental resources. So as you can see, these are a few reasons why the long span alternative has become the preferred alternative for the project. However, it does propose, obviously, removing the historic Burnside Bridge itself, which is on the National Historic Register. So that is a con of this alternative. Additionally, one key feature of the preferred alternative I wanted to share is that as part of this alternative, we would not build a detour bridge during construction for people to use. We would close the bridge permanently for 4 to 5 years. So no detour bridge as part of the preferred alternative. I also wanted to share that we have been exploring a variety of structure types, and there are just a few on the screen that I wanted to walk through. On the top, we have a tied arch structure similar to the Fremont Bridge. Also, we're looking at a cable stay bridge like the Tillicum, as well as a conventional girder style bridge in the lower left-hand corner there. And then for the movable structure type over the navigation channel, we are looking at a vertical lift structure similar to the Hawthorne Bridge and the Steel Bridge, as well as a bascule style bridge that moves like so, similar to what's out there today. And I just wanted to share those structure types because some of our cost saving refinements are related to selection of structure types for the bridge. Our draft environmental impact statement cross-section proposed widening the bridge than what's out there today. In the top graphic, you can see the existing cross-section where we have 5 lanes of traffic, including the bus-only lane, as well as a bike lane, as well as sidewalks. The cross-section we were proposing continued to have 5 lanes of traffic with a little bit of extra wiggle room in each lane, and then widening the bike ped space to 20 feet, allowing 8 feet for the pedestrian space, as well as 8 feet for the cycling space. It also proposed including a crash-worthy barrier to protect those who are walking and biking against any straying vehicle traffic. We received a lot of support for the recommended preferred alternative at that time, with about 88% agreement for the replacement long span, as well as 85% agreement for the full bridge closure during construction. We're so lucky here in Portland that we have so many other bridges that it just really didn't make sense to spend all that time and money, environmental impact to build a detour structure that would have to move as well, be movable as well. The cost for the project when we published the DIS was above $800 million. We have secured approximately $300 million for the project today through the county's vehicle registration fee. We appreciate the city of Portland and other small cities foregoing their allocated distribution of the vehicle registration fee in support of this project. That's why we have $300 million today. That being said, things have changed since we published the draft environmental impact statement and did those cost estimates. We were disappointed when the regional bond measure for transportation did not pass in 2020. That would have allocated $150 million to our project and continue our forward momentum of getting something in place as fast as possible, which we often hear from the community. We are also aware that there are other mega projects in our region that are equally important and also need money. So we know there's going to be competition for limited transportation dollars. And then finally, COVID, as everyone has probably felt, has impacted costs of projects, the labor market to material costs. So our project costs have just been rising and rising. And our county leadership has asked us to look for ways to bring the overall cost of the project down. And I'm going to walk through 3 key cost saving refinements that we are proposing today. One thing to keep in mind is that as we were looking at ranges of cost saving refinements, we wanted to ensure there were key guiding principles that were influencing any decisions were being made. First, any cost saving refinement would only be applied to the long span alternative. We would not go back and look at other alternatives that we were evaluating, and the long span alternative was the cheapest alternative. So any changes would apply to the long span alternative. Second, we did not want to make any decisions that would impact the primary purpose of need of the project, which again is seismic resiliency, emergency response, and long-term use of the Burnside corridor crossing. And as always, we wanted to maintain our county's equity lens as we looked at options to consider. The first cost-saving refinement relates to the west approach bridge structure type. So on the screen is the existing bridge as it is today over Tom McCall Waterfront Park. You see several rows of columns in the park. We have found, the project team has recommended replacing the old girder style structure with a newer conventional girder style structures. This would afford up to $40 million of savings for the project. We heard a lot of positive feedback about this option. Not only does it provide a higher vertical clearance under the park, and wider open space for use under the park, it also preserves open views of the city, both into and out of town, especially in the historic district, which should we have opted for a cable stay or a tight arch in this location, it'd be very hard to get that structure type permitted through the national agencies that oversee historic districts in this area. The second cost-saving refinement has to do with the movable span bridge type. Up on the screen is what's out there today, the historic bascule style structure that opens up and down like a drawbridge. The project team recommends replacing it with a new bascule style drawbridge, as you can see modeled in the photo. Again, not only is it cost effective, resulting in a savings up to $35 million, it also preserves those open views. This is the center of Portland. You know, it's really about Portland being on display, not necessarily the structure. That's what we've heard from our community. Now you may notice on the right-hand side of these graphics, you see 2 different structure types still being considered for the east approach that spans over liquefiable soils, ODOT facilities, the railroad. We are not going to make a decision about that structure type in the environmental review phase. We're going to wait till the design phase when we have contractor input because it's so complex. We don't really feel like we have all the information we need today to make that decision. So that is the second cost saving refinement that I wanted to share. Finally, the last one, which is the most controversial, and it's the idea of narrowing the bridge from that DEIS cross-section I shared earlier. So what we are proposing is to remove 1 vehicle lane from the bridge. Again, at the very top of the screen is where the existing bridge cross-section as it is today with the 5 lanes, including the bus-only lane, with approximately a 13-foot wide bike ped facility. We were proposing again, preserving the 5 lanes and widening the bike ped space to 20 feet. But now with the cost-saving refinement, we're looking at a 4-lane bridge and then a bike ped space somewhere between 14 and 17 feet. And just to give you a sense of how wide that may be compared to other bridges in downtown, 14 feet matches the widest bike ped space of any other bridge downtown, which is the Tillicum. So just to give a sense of what we are proposing relative to what's out there today. This could realize up to $165 million of savings. So it's really the biggest bang for our buck. So it's something we are seriously considering. However, we are doing this lock and step with the city. We are looking at 4 ways to allocate the space on a 4-lane bridge. The first option is called a balanced. It's called the balanced option, where we have 2 lanes going into town, westbound, 2 lanes going out of town, eastbound, and one of those out of town lanes continues to be the bus only lane. The second option is called the eastbound focus, where we have 1 lane going into town, westbound, 3 lanes going out of town, with 2 lanes being general purpose and that 3rd lane preserving the bus only lane as it is today. The third option looks at what it would mean to install a reversible lane on the bridge. This would be the first reversible lane in Oregon. So it's not something that we're typically used to using. So a lot of thought and evaluation is going into what this could mean for traffic. So in the reversible lane, there would be always 1 lane in the town westbound, always 1 lane going out of town eastbound, along with the bus only lane, but there's 1 lane that reverses direction depending on the peak flow of traffic needed at that time. Now the final option, the 4th option, that we call the bus queue jump. So rather than having a bus only lane on the entire width of the bridge itself, there would be portions of the bridge at the ends that would be bus only lanes. So if a bus gets across the bridge, it would jump the queue, so to speak, and get to the front of the line with the traffic signal, and then have a prioritized traffic signal and jump ahead of traffic as the light turns green. So this would have 2 lanes in the town westbound and 2 lanes out of town eastbound, with prioritized bus queue jumps at the ends of each bridge. So we are out in the community getting feedback on these 3 proposed cost-saving refinements. We have a variety of tools, as we all do, to get that feedback. We have a survey out, and we should be able to share. We are planning on sharing those the feedback and what we heard with our county commissioners this spring before any decisions are made about those cost-saving refinements. And then next steps for our project, coming up in 2022, in the spring, we're going to publish that supplemental draft environmental impact statement that captures the evaluation of these cost-saving refinements. That will be followed by a 45-day public comment period, after which we'll bring what we heard back to county and city leaders, and we'll be back to council probably in the summer to request a resolution to adopt the preferred alternative. About that same time in summer 2022, we'll be selecting our A&E or design team for the next phase of the project, along with the contractor we'd like to work with. We're opting to move forward with a CMGC, construction manager, general contractor delivery method. We feel like it's the right method for a complex project such as this. By summer, we also will have more information on the FHWA and ODOT approved project labor agreement and community benefits agreement to really guide our project's workforce equity goals and vision. Then following in the winter of 2022, we will have made our decision on the cost saving refinements to the preferred alternative. We will publish that refined alternative in a final environmental impact statement and have a record decision and really close out finally the environmental review phase. And at that time, we'll be launching into the design phase. So that's just a little bit of preview of what's to come for our project. And that concludes the project briefing I wanted to share with you today. And before I close, just wanted to acknowledge what we're hearing strong interest from the community about not only the bridge itself, but the connections from the bridge to key facilities beneath the bridge. And with that, I'll hand it over to Patrick, my colleague at the city, to talk a little bit more about what's to come with connections to the bridge and facilities around it.
Thank you, Megan. Could you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, PBOT's appreciative of the efforts from Commissioner Mapp's office and City Council decision to allocate some funding from the fall budget management process to develop a cost estimate for the Human Access Project ramp and river access project. And that is shown on the screen in the lower left, a diagram of the long ramp concept on the south side of the bridge with access, water access to the Willamette River. We still have a lot to learn about the potential for different types of ramps and their kind of connections from the bridge to the East Bank Esplanade. As shown on the screen, there's lots of options to think about. There could be a switchback ramp. There could be another kind of ramp option that connects to both sides and loops underneath the bridge and connects to the Esplanade. So we still have a lot to learn there. PBOT is taking the lead to develop concept level designs and estimated costs for what is possible with a universal access and low maintenance ramp or lower maintenance ramp from the bridge deck to the East Bank Esplanade. And then city and county roles and responsibilities related to final design and implementation of this connection will be further explored during the next phase, the final design phase of the project. Megan?
Well, I believe that concludes our PowerPoint for today, and I think we'll hand it back over to Commissioner Hardesty for public testimony. I'll go ahead and take the PowerPoint down.
Well, let me just thank you very much. What a very informative presentation. Really appreciate the hard work and the true collaboration between Multnomah County and the City of Portland Bureau of Transportation. Mayor Wheeler, I will turn it back over to you if you'd like to facilitate public public testimony.
Sounds good. Thanks, Commissioner. Thanks, everybody, for the presentation. Keelan, how many people do we have signed up today?
Today we have 21 people on the line.
Good. All right, very good. 3 minutes, name for the record, please. And I will let you call them up in order, folks. 3 minutes at City Hall means 3 minutes. So when you hit 3 minutes, your microphone is suddenly going to go dead. So keep it within 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mayor. First up, we have Willie Levinson, Sam Drevo, and Tom Vandal.
Okay, is it okay to speak? I guess I'm on. This is Willie Levinson. I am the ringleader of Human Access Project, and I greatly appreciate the presentation of Multnomah County And it was sobering hearing the consequences of an earthquake and why it is so important to address this critical infrastructure. I think it's not unusual in government that necessity of shoring up things like critical infrastructure winds up driving the opportunity to leverage these investments to bring something greater to the community than just the bare minimum of basic infrastructure. For the last 30 plus years, the city of Portland has had fluffy ideas and planning documents talking about creating greater connection to the Willamette River. And in a time where we are short on budget, it's even more important to be able to leverage a once in a generation $1 billion investment to get the most out of it that we can. Bike Portland broke a story this morning saying that Multnomah County reported that their community outreach effort revealed that there's basically no support for an elevator. That acknowledgement, although the elevator is not completely officially dead at this point, that acknowledgement is tangible and a step in the right direction. And we're very happy to hear that. And to me, that acknowledgement is a reflection of a very well-run community outreach process that not only takes in the information, but listens to it and makes appropriate decisions. I was happy to see that the equity lens continues to be a top priority in decision-making. Ultimately, I think that one of the things that need to be understood is where the responsibility for the county ends. I don't think it involves a park myself. My personal opinion is that Multnomah County, and particularly through its equity lens, should be considering the disability community. And I feel like if Multnomah County embraces the words of the equity as it affects people who currently are not able to have access to the Esplanade, if we're able to listen to the needs of the disability community, my sense is that all other users will benefit, similar to the way that in environmental circles, being able to look to salmon as an indicator species for health of a river, if we're able to look to the disability community to guide us to what functioning ramp that they feel a part of this community brings, that we are going to be in the right direction. I'm greatly appreciative of the relationship that we've had with Multnomah County to be able to entertain these ideas and bounce off Multnomah County. They've been a great partner, as well as we greatly appreciate the communication we've been able to have with all commissioner offices and bureaus as we've worked on this for over a year and a half now. So thanks again for the time and the presentation, and look forward to seeing what comes next.
Next up, we have Sam Drevo.
Thank you, Council, Mayor, Commission. Really interesting presentation, and I'm thrilled to be able to speak on behalf of this earthquake-ready Burnside Bridge project. As a small business owner in Oregon for the last 21 years, based on the river and a river rescue first responder, I definitely appreciate the importance of readiness when it comes to natural disaster. I was involved in the fires last year, had some houses burned down. So it strikes at home. So I appreciate everything you're doing to prepare the city. And over the last 20 years, I've used the Esplanade regularly to run and bike. Ever since getting involved with the Human Access Project, I also swim in the river regularly. And as a small business owner and sort of focusing on river recreation and as a kayak school, I also understand the importance of access. Unfortunately, the East Bank Esplanade has a great view of the river, but there's just no way to get down and to touch and feel it, with the exception of the north side. And props to HAP for helping activate that space. But I think that Portland could improve on that quite a bit. I really appreciate, the city's effort with the big pipe and trying to keep the river clean, because more and more people, as they develop a stronger relationship with the river, hopefully everybody understands the importance of a clean river. So anyway, I'm just really supportive of the idea of trying to create a stronger connection. As somebody that gets people out of wheelchairs and into kayaks regularly, I think the adaptive community would really benefit from a connection like that. And I also can say that as we work to increase access to the river, I think that all the visitors that come to Portland will benefit, not only the locals, but I understand the importance of tourism and visitors. Every time I go down there and swim in the river, I'm buying coffee and going to breakfast close by, and this sort of thing is really important to economic development too, even in the indirect side of things. But yeah, so I appreciate your commitment to investigating this component of the project further. And I just think that this is, like Willie said, a once in generation opportunity for Portlanders and furthering develop the relationship with the river that really sustains all of us. It's so critically important. Portland is located along this river, and we need better access to it. Thanks so much.
Next up, we have Tom Vandal.
Hi, I am on the Human Access Board, Human Access Project Board. Thanks again for everybody for this opportunity. Talk to you real quick. I won't be long. I'd like to just make sure we kind of don't forget the vision of people using the bridge, not just vehicles and stuff, but people who are crossing the bridge, people who are using that East Bank Esplanade. And boy, if they could get a spot where they could get down in there and touch the river, that could really turn around some feelings about the river and about our use of the river and how important it is to be able to access the river. I'm just going to read a poem or two here from children that they do an annual anthology of, it's called Honoring Our Rivers, and children write their own poems. So here's a couple. Here's one from Amy, grade 1. A river is wonderful. It keeps the fish from drying out. Here's another one, Jordan, grade 4. Come and seek my silent places where the heron stands alone like stone. Come and let my song embrace you, seep into your heart and bone. Phoebe, 12th grade. Somewhere along the way, the river picked up some of our hopes and dreams and gave us back serenity. Let's see, one more. Let's see. River, you run within me. That's Ashi, grade 6. Grade 4, Anushka says, as I walk, the tranquility propels me to the river, leading myself inside of me. Here's the last one I'll say. This is from Michaela, 5th grade. Never slam it, our river will lam it. Pretty good, and so anyway, young people, are going to follow like what we do, and what our vision is will impact their lives and future generations. And so I just think, rather than focus too much on just the actual details and the costs and lowering the prices if we can and stuff, if we could just expand our vision a little bit and think more about generations of people from now who will be using this bridge and who may have better access to the river because of it, or it may open their minds more about the river, then I think that's an opportunity that we should really explore. Anyway, that's my opinion on it. Thanks a lot for your time.
Next up, we have Susan Bladholm, Tad McCall, and Simon Walsh.
Hello, Mayor Wheeler and commissioners, and our PBOT liaison, Patrick. I'm testifying today to urge you to be bold as you make decisions that impact the future of Portland. I'm the founder of Frog Ferry, and as you consider the Burnside Bridge replacement, please include in your thinking a design that provides both pedestrian access to the river and a design that mitigates the impact of an earthquake. I am a trustee of the Human Access Project, and with Frog Ferry, we want to provide more and better access to our valuable green spaces, especially at the Willamette River. Thank you.
Next up, we have Tad McCall. Tad, you're muted. Why don't we go to Simon Walsh?
Hi, so I'm Simon Walsh, and real quick before I start, I just have a quick question for you guys. So my sister was actually signed up to be a speaker too, but she was not on the list. Should we send in like a written testimony for that? Sorry for the question before I start.
Simon, is that Sadie?
Yes, it is.
Okay, we have Sadie added to the list, and we'll call her.
All right, perfect, thank you. Okay, so hi, my name is Simon Walsh. I am a sophomore at the recently renamed I.W. Wells High School. And during the last 2 summers, I was swimming on the Human Access Project River Hugger swim team. And it's definitely impacted the way I think about the Willamette. And I think it's super important to our community, the river that is. Because I've been swimming in the river and went to several beach cleanups, it's really changed how I feel about the river. And I think I actually feel responsible for helping other people learn about how awesome the river is. A lot of my peers that I go to school with, a lot of my friends, I'll mention that I swim in the river and they'll be like, wait, that's like gross. Why are you doing that? The river is nasty. And I have to kind of explain it's not actually. The river is safe. You can go in the river. So yeah, right now, even when the weather's warm, it's not a destination for people. I think that with a little bit of help, the Willamette could really become a powerful symbol for our city and could help bring diverse communities together in safe and healthy public spaces in a fun way. As part of the Burnside project, it would be really helpful, I think, if the city worked with HAP and other groups.
Hi, Tad McCall. I'm a trustee with the HAP. And I'm sorry, I keep trying to unmute.
Tad, we're in the middle of someone else providing testimony. We'll call you next, okay?
As part of the Burnside project, I think it would be really helpful if the city worked with HAP and other groups to change the East Bank to make it much more human friendly and connect the Esplanade to the water. The pictures of the terraces leading down, I think, look super cool. And I bike and I run along there, and it's not easy to get down. So I think that those could really change it. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you guys.
Okay, Tad. It looks like you're muted.
Tad, go ahead. You're up. Tad McCall, you're up. Tad, can you hear us? Tad? Keelan, let's keep working with him and we'll come back to Tad, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. Next up, let's see here. Next up, we have Austin Knight.
Hey guys, my name is Austin Knight. First, I want to thank the mayor and the commissioners for this opportunity to speak on this project. It's obviously super important that we have a safe avenue for emergency services in case of a seismic event that's rightfully going to happen, as we've been told. A little bit of info. I'm a HAP volunteer as well, along with some of the other people here. I do logistics, and I've done some muscle related to other cleanups, mainly up in the St. John's Park area. And I think it's really important to think that, or to note that our river is drastically underutilized, and it really is the lifeblood of the city. When you visit some other large cities in this country, or even in other countries, the river is the gathering point. It's where everyone goes to meet each other. It's the place to hang out. And in Portland, unfortunately, it really isn't. And I think this is a good opportunity to change that.
Mayor Wheeler, Council, I apologize. I was having some technical difficulty. I'm usually not accused of being silent.
Tad, I'm so sorry. Tad, can you hear me?
I'm unmuted, but I'm not coming through.
Keelan, let's let Tad go. Yeah. Austin, can we come to you next? Tad, go ahead. We hear you. We got you. Go ahead, Tad.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
You sound great. You look
okay. All right. Thank you so much. I'm not usually accused of being. I hear you. Can you hear me? Yes, I hear you. Okay, here we go.
Tad, are you having problems with that there? Tad?
I'm going to try a different, can you hear me now?
Yes, go.
Okay, there we go. I was, all right. I'm usually not accused of being silent, but this time I was. Look, I just wanted to make some brief comments. I join in everybody else's support for this project. I just want to talk about the pedestrian access ramp concept. I'm a trustee to HAP. And what I really like about this concept is that it gives more people access to this improved Willamette River. It pays particular attention to people with disabilities and gives them a chance to enjoy just like everyone else. That is the most important thing to me. But what I also like is that it's environmentally sensitive. We're not just expanding access with a lot of concrete. We're tying into existing areas. We're putting in drainage areas to take, so we're not having runoff from where we are. So it gives more people access. It's environmentally sensitive, and it's got soundproofing to help make the place, the experience more delightful, really. Be by the waterside in a quiet, pleasant way. This is really a wise project. It's such a wise project that it's known all the way to the East Coast where I am. So coast to coast, we support the Burnside Bridge pedestrian access concept for the benefit it brings to the people of Portland. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Austin, thank you for your patience. You're up next, and I'll turn it over to Keelan after that.
Thank you, Mayor Wheeler. I only have a little bit left. As a Portland State University alumni, I ended up joining what's the Portland E-Bike Club, which is actually recently mentioned in Oregon Live. If you go find that article, it's the Friday night ride. And part of their route on that Friday night ride actually goes along that entire Esplanade. And I imagine that if this park came to fruition, that park would be part of this route. And part of the cool thing I realized before I even started for HAP, I was enjoying another HAP project, the Duckworth Park, the docks there, and seeing the life there. It wasn't just like another spot along the Esplanade where there wasn't anyone there. That entire area, every time we rode through there, was full of people. They were sitting on benches. They're out in the water swimming. They were having a good time. They're enjoying the river, which is the whole point of living near one, honestly, in my opinion. And lastly, Commissioner Maps the other week, I did watch a previous council meeting. He mentioned something along the lines of, this is a once in a century opportunity to reimagine the waterfront of our city. And I think that really resonates. And it's our opportunity to, like you said, reimagine, create a space where we can create something that Portland's known for. And all at the same time, embracing the natural beauty of where we live. And that's all I got, guys. Thank you for the time and have a great day.
Next up, we have Ashton Simpson, Mike Faha, and Adam Zucker.
Good afternoon, Council. Mayor Wheeler, my name is Ashton Simpson. I use he, him pronouns. I'm here in support of the Burnside Pedestrian Access Project for a number of reasons. I am also one of our city's nets, so I know the importance of what it is to be earthquake ready. So we need to make sure that, one, we are doing that because the Burnside Bridge is a lifeline to East Portland, and we have to make sure that those folks can be resilient and bounce back in the event of the Cascadian subduction earthquake. But in terms of the access for pedestrians, this is a wonderful project that I believe really needs to happen, especially with it being centered right in between two major potential developments with the Albino Vision Trust, as well as the OMSI development. It could be essentially the icing and the Oreo to make this thing look sweet, and also be an attractive piece to our city. As we bring in more and more folks, we want to show that the beauty in it and the bliss that is Oregon and that is Portland. And I believe that that is one way of doing that. As well as, there is no access to the water. A lot of native cultures within our region, they survived since time memoriam with access to the water. And I believe that we should also keep those folks in mind and make sure that we are doing this not only to acknowledge previous culture, but to also continue their practices where they do have solid access to that waterfront. So Oregon Walks is in total support of this project. We believe that it not only will make things easier for our pedestrians to move around, but also make it a something vibrant for our community where right now it doesn't look that way. It's not set up in that way. And I will also urge you to make sure that keeping folks in mind, as what was previously stated, universal design, making sure that we design this project for our elders, our youth, and folks with mental and physical disabilities. I always believe in that concept because us as secondary users, or as Commissioner Hardesty likes to put it, the temporarily abled, we will benefit from that system as secondary users. Thank you for your time today. And please, I urge you to pass to support this project. Thank you.
Next up, we have Mike Faha.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, Council. And it's a joy to be here. I have been a HAP member since 2011, a board member. I'm also a principal of Greenworks Landscape Architecture firm based here in Portland, Oregon. When I joined HAP, I was charmed by Mr. Willie Levinson, who is our ringleader and a dynamic grassroots activist here in Portland. I recognize this group. I can contribute in a grassroots activist organization to affect change along the Willamette River and that reflected Portland values. And so I'm proud to be a member of that group. Since then, I volunteered on Poets Beach and Audrey McCall Beach access projects, which were modest projects, but successful. And we were able to connect Portlanders to our riverfront in a small but effective way. So Willie talked me into volunteering for this project, which is much higher profile, a much bigger community investment, but it is really an opportunity for HAP to get in there and recognize that there's an important intended purpose of the project, which was making us getting an earthquake resilient bridge across the river. But HAP is always looking for multiple benefits. This community typically makes major infrastructure investments looking at multiple benefits. And the multiple benefits we're looking for include recreational connectivity, scenic enjoyment, multiple use access for a variety of users, as Tad was mentioning, and then habitat, open space, and environmental benefits. This project can be a catalyst for a creative riverbank treatment that starts to alter the trashy condition of the downtown Portland waterfront. We have a seawall on the west side. We have blackberry concrete chunks and rubble on the east side. This is an opportunity to start changing the way we address that riverbank. And it's in a dynamic location. It connects east and west, and it connects north and south. In conclusion, I just say the project is emblematic of our relationship to the river, and we should treat it as such. Thank you very much for your time.
Keelan, Jeff has his hands raised. I'm not sure why, Jeff.
I think that was an accident. He lost his internet, and I think when he came back on, his hand was raised. So feel free to proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next up, we have Adam Zucker.
Hi, thank you, Mayor Wheeler and city commissioners, as well as the county commissioners and staff that are on this call. My name is Adam Zucker, and I'm a Pisces. Hopefully that's not too much information, like long walks on the beach and fires, but you know, while it's not really clear that my astrological sign has had any bearing on my career path to become a water resource engineer, I do know that I do have an affinity with the water, particularly the Willamette River. Several years ago, I witnessed from afar, or from one of our wonderful bridges, the Hawthorne Bridge, the annual Human Access Project, Big Float. And I was like, wow, this is just an amazing project. I've heard about it, but seeing it in person was just like no other. Kind of the next year, kind of really inspired by what I saw, as an East Sider, I took advantage of the Audrey McCall Beach. You know, what a great access to the river that is. So simple, but as someone, as an East Sider that doesn't have too much access to the river, that was just really amazing to be able to kind of pull up there and unload my flotation device and just walk a few yards down to the river. So I'm all for seeing additional access to the river. As many folks have said ahead of me, I think the Burnside Bridge project is very important to our region, and it really offers a once in a century opportunity to add amenities to our city. And I hear wholeheartedly support better access for all abilities. I'm glad to hear that the elevator, which is very scary and is kind of on the outs, and I really support having a kind of a safer and just a real more welcoming access to the river as an East Sider. So thank you very much for my time, and I appreciate all the hard work and coordination the city and the county are doing on this project.
Next up, we have Jane Claire Karen, Sonia Montalbano, and Mark Zahner. Jane Claire, you're muted.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am in support of the ramp addition to the upgraded Burnside Bridge. I'm also glad that the idea of the elevator is not being as actively pursued. I've seen many more working ramps and elevators in Portland, so I think that's probably a good idea to keep an elevator off of the bridge if possible and just maintain the ramp plans. I also would support the river access from the Burnside Bridge plans. And I really am grateful that there's so much energy and brain power and funding behind upgrading the Burnside Bridge. I want to thank you all for the hard work you're doing. Short and sweet.
Next up, we have Sonia Montalbano.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Sonia Montalbano. I'm an attorney here in Portland. I'm also, as a number of people who've spoken today, a board member on the Human Access Project. But before that, I was an avid floater, kayaker, walker, and biker, especially along the river. And before that, I was a law student who worked on the lawsuit that brought about the big pipe. I think it's amazing to see the progress that the city has made in helping clean up the Willamette River. Human Access Project and other organizations have worked very hard to increase interest in the river and new ways to enjoy the river. Most recently, since I moved here 25 years ago, swimming. You could not swim in it before. And the Burnside Bridge is an opportunity to continue to expand access to the resource that residents of Portland, Oregon, and people from all over the world can enjoy. And again, I'm reinforcing the idea that, as this project goes forward and things get tweaked, that you really stay committed to the ramp, because I think that's going to significantly increase access to people with physical challenges, not just the, people who are disabled, but, we're all going to get there at one point, as they said. And more people can use the ramp at one time than in an elevator. You also don't have to be in a confined space with people, which we've come to learn is something that can pose a risk to you. And we have no guarantee that's not going to be the case going forward. If an earthquake were to happen and someone were down at the riverfront, probably the electricity will go out. And if it does, how are those people going to get back up? They're going to wait until they're rescued, or maybe they can make their way up, but on the ramp. Finally, I appreciate that cost is a significant consideration. And I want you to remember the objections that people made to the big pipe when it was being built. And I think all those people who objected, when they look back now with hindsight, they would all agree that was a worthwhile investment in our city. And, I think that the ramp and the Burnside Bridge is an opportunity for the city of Portland to see the city making progress on something. You all have a lot on your plates right now, and there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, but people need to see concrete things to feel that things are working. And this is an opportunity for the city of Portland to do that once again, which it does so well in serving its citizens. So thank you very much. Please keep the ramp and keep up the good work. Bye-bye.
Next up, we have Mark Zahner.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. Thanks for allowing me to speak on and testify in favor of Greenworks and Human Access Project's Burnside Bridge pedestrian access ramp concept. I have a family member that's disabled and is in a wheelchair, and the physical barriers that are presented are enormous. And I think a good ADA ramp access would go a long way to eliminate those physical barriers as well as psychological barriers. It's very hard to get people to come down to the river, to overcome their whatever perception they have of it, whether it be dirty or scary. And I think this would go a long way. Access to Duckworth docks is difficult as it is. It's a long, arduous process on the north end getting down to the docks. I think a ramp such as this would provide better access for first responders and make it a more secure and safe place also. So I'm in favor of this. I thank you for allowing me to have your ear today, and I applaud your efforts. Thanks.
Next up, we have Joe Cadwell, Aaron Kuhn, and Keel Johnson.
Hi there, my name is Joe Cadwell, and I am speaking in support of the Burnside Bridge, I think for 3 reasons. To begin with, I appreciate the Human Access Project. What they do for the last 2 years, I've been a river hugger swimmer, doing those early morning swims. Access to the river, clean water is fantastic. I think the first, though, is the safety that was mentioned earlier. Living in Southeast Portland, my wife living in Southwest Portland, if we were to have a seismic event of any size that would knock out the bridges, I would definitely appreciate a bridge that she would be able to find safe access back to our home in inner Southeast Portland. So safety is paramount in this situation. The second one would be obviously the access to the river and again, making the Willamette River a centerpiece in our city. As someone had mentioned earlier, so many European cities and cities around the world truly do value their rivers, and we are a river city. It would be an emblematic statement for us to embrace that river, make it accessible to everyone to get down and truly appreciate. And then finally, speaking from the perspective of an apprentice coordinator for the Carpenters Union, I work with the pile drivers, carpenters, millwrights for the Northwest Carpenters Union, and I see just a benefit of being able to have our carpenters at work, making livable wage having livable wage jobs provided for them, having diversity and equity on the forefront through collective bargaining agreements and project labor agreements. I think this is a win-win for all of us, and I truly do hope that you support this project. At this point, I see I have about a minute and 10 seconds. I'd like to yield the rest of my time to Tad. If we can get Tad back on, that'd be great. Might take a minute or so to get him. But if Tad's not going to come in, I truly do appreciate Ashton Simpson as well. Anyone that can use time memoriam in a sentence is just fantastic. He's kind of a hero of mine now. And I appreciate all of you, and I will just yield my time to the next speaker. Thank you very much. Let's support this project. Let's see clean rivers. Let's see safe access to the rivers. Let's see safety for our citizens, and let's see jobs for our citizens as well. Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Aaron Kuhn.
Hi, yeah, I have nothing but support for everything everyone said before me. This is a great discussion for us to be having and testifying about today. And so I'm very supportive of all the Human Access Project testimony we've heard. All the projects that they've done are just amazing, and we're so lucky to have them in our city. Yeah, Burnside Bridge is the very center of our city, so it's really worth spending some time thinking about what we plan for the future of that. I love the bridge that's there now. I'm sad that it has to be replaced, but let's try to replace it with something that's even better. which is kind of what we're talking about. And even though there are space, budget, and material constraints as part of this project, that's sort of the defining feature of all bridge design. And that's kind of what makes it fun from a design and engineering standpoint, I think. So I wouldn't be afraid of those constraints, but rather embrace them. I'm a first responder with a regional search and rescue organization. I'm not with Human Access Project, but I'm fully supportive of everything they said. And I'm also a member of a planning group for a disaster response simulation event that's going to happen in 2022 here in Portland. And similar to what Megan Neal pointed out about the local surface network being our resilient network after a major seismic event, in both of the emergency response groups I'm with, we've come to recognize the role that bicycling and walking and non-motorized transportation plays after an emergency and during one. This is already well documented and understood. Obviously, convenient availability of vehicle fuel and electricity can't be expected following an emergency, and definitely not after a Cascadia event. This has implications for lane widths on the span, on the deck. I'd recommend using some more forward thinking with that. And for me, that means more space for bikes and pedestrians and less for single occupancy vehicle lanes. But really what I want to hammer home is the unreliability of elevators as we're seeing them currently in Portland. So they're popping up. There's one on the Lafayette Street pedestrian bridge that was out in 2017 and 2018. My son was using that to get to Cleveland High School for 4 years. He completely stopped using it because it was out for so long, just used the stairs to carry his bike up and down. They had to go and put new HVAC equipment in to dry it out. They had to put new canopies on. Basically, they were afraid people were going to get trapped on that bridge. And that was just because of humidity from the regular Portland weather. And I can't imagine about extremes in the future. The Bob Stacy crossing, which was the Gideon Overcrossing, has been out of service since it opened because of failed motor that can't be delivered because of supply chain disruption, which we've got to anticipate is going to happen in the future. And then the Gibbs Street pedestrian elevator has been out as well. In all these faulty elevator cases, we just need to build a ramp. It's just a proven technology. That's it. Thanks.
Next up is Keel Johnson.
Hello, my name is Kyle Johnson, and I'm coming to you guys from the Burnside. I don't know if you can see or hear me. I'm going to try to keep it pretty short because it's really loud. I'm right next to the freeway, and I just wanted to show some support for the sound barrier that would be included in the ramp, and how this piece of infrastructure is a relic from our 1960s way of thinking about space, because we put the freeway right next to the river. If you turn around, you have such an amazing, nice view of the city, but it's hard to appreciate when you're right next to the freeway. So I just want to show my support for the ramp and the noise barrier, and especially making sure that the Oregon Department of Transportation pays their fair share for how putting the freeway right here has cost our city. So thank you all very much. And I'll hand over the rest of my time so you don't have to hear the freeway anymore. Thank you.
Next up, we have Jan Campbell, Christina Malongo, and Crystal Granger.
Thank you, Mayor and City County Commissioners. My name is Jan Campbell. I am a person living with a disability and use a motorized wheelchair. I worked for years for the City of Portland and Multnomah County as a coordinator of the Disability Project. Some of you know me and actually have advocated along with me in protecting the rights of persons living with a disability. I have been an advocate for a long time because when I first became disabled, there was no access for persons living with a disability. I was totally dependent on others and never had the opportunity to participate in so many areas. And that is still true for many. I was denied a teaching job because of my disability. My family and I have made this a lifetime passion. My family has all passed, but I will continue working on issues that are accessible and equitable. I want you to know why it is so important for everyone to have access to the Willamette River downtown and enjoy it. Design is more than what is required by code. It needs to be more than just functional. Design needs to be equitable. In saying this, I feel with this project, a ramp down to the river would be more equitable than an elevator. If both could be funded, that would be great. However, as I understand, this is not feasible at this time. I was working for the city when an elevator was installed on the east side for access to the river. At that time, some of our concerns were told and they would not be met, and they were never implemented. The two reasons I feel that eventually led to the shutdown was because it was very difficult to maintain. So it wasn't in working order a lot of the time, and people did not feel safe using it. A ramp, if designed properly and having persons with disabilities involved in the design, would show us that we are part of the city and county's agenda. Please don't put us in an enclosed space where we may not feel safe, including getting stuck in it. That probably will be difficult to maintain because of funding, availability of parts, and our keeping it clean. These will be the same reasons today if we install one. Some of us have had meetings with the city and county expressing our concerns, and that is exactly what we are hearing. We want everyone to be able to use a ramp at all times of the day like everyone else. We want to enjoy the river when we want. Disability is part of the human condition. We can no longer be disadvantaged in accessing our rivers. That is why I am a member and so thankful for Human Access Project. They get it. All design must be looked at in a different way, that being universal design and equitable. And we talk about compliance to the ADA, but we know that many laws are not equitable. And so please don't put funding as one of the main issues for whether you have an elevator or not. Make it, again, truly accessible for everyone and equitable. Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Christina Malongo.
Hello, I'm Christina Malongo, and I am part of the Human Access Project. I'm on the River Huggers swim team, which means that I have an advantage if the Burnside Bridge goes down. I'll be able to get across the river, but not true for everybody. And one of the things that's just been a complete joy about that involvement has been swimming from the East Side Esplanade near the Audrey McCall Beach and the fire station that's there, and also at Kevin Duckworth Dock. Having more access to the river near the Burnside Bridge would be just delightful. You know, Portland, the river is just a gem running through the city. It's wonderful, and it is clean, and it is a real draw for people. I've met so many people from around the world down by the river, and that draw would only increase with better access to the water. I'm really grateful for all the work the city and the county are doing. I think that investing in the joy that's available and accessible to us in the play that is free, you know, anybody can access it. It's a very, it seems to me like something that is just a gift for our city. And so the ways that you can look at better access through a ramp to that area would be really wonderful to enhance that area. Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Crystal Granger.
Hi, my name is Crystal Granger, and I'm also a River Huggers member. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for allowing us this time to speak. I grew up in Northeast Portland, and me and my sister got into the lottery program, so we went to West Side schools. So for 12 years, we were bused across the river to Ainsworth, West Sylvan, and Lincoln, and I continued my education at Portland Community College in Portland State. I think in the later years of my education, I realized that that river, like Megan said, is when I code switched from being African American to being white. And it took me a while to realize that river and the impact that it had, because it is a divider of our city, right? Like you see the socioeconomic divide, you see the racial divide. And after I joined River Huggers, it was like a place where there wasn't a divide, right? Everybody's equal in that water. You know, I'm one of the younger members of the team. There are a few people of color that are on the team. There are people with disabilities on the team, and it really brings people together. And so I really encourage you to, when you think about this plan, to really enhance that east side, to give people more access to the waters at a fundamental level, because it is really a beautiful thing. And it can maybe, instead of divide our city through those barriers, maybe it can bring people closer together. So please consider this when you guys are funding this project. Consider the access to individuals. I know, like growing up on the east side, it costs money now to park a car at Marine Drive, driving all the way to Bybee and Smith Park, and to access that, it's very far, and it's really not a hidden gem anymore. There's a lot of parking, and you have to park really far away to access those waterways. So in our traditional like redlining African American neighborhoods, to have access to the water where you can just walk down to is incredible, and I highly encourage you to continue to promote that availability to people on the east side. I am an advocate of like our community centers, but just know that a drop-in pass for Dishman Community Center is $6.25. To swim with River Huggers, it's $5 a session. So there is a lot of access in that program, and I think you should just continuously have it in the forefront of your mind as you design this new project, because it really is, it can bring us together closer as a community. Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Tom Stenson and Sadie Walsh.
Good afternoon to the mayor and to the commissioners. Thank you for having me on. I'm Tom Stenson. I'm the Deputy Legal Director at Disability Rights Oregon, and I'm very happy to be here today. I'm glad to see that accessibility is being incorporated into the plans for the new Burnside Bridge. I think there's been a lot of discussion in the community, and there's a strong preference among people with disabilities for having the ramp. There's a lot of strong advantages to having a ramp. While it has initial startup costs in the construction, it's very low maintenance once it gets going. And elevators, especially ones that are out of doors, are well known to have big challenges in continued operation, given the weather, given use by people, safety and security, cleanliness, vandalism. You know, these are all major issues with elevators that you can see here in the Portland area in Trimont elevators. The Seattle area transit has had some significant challenges around their elevators at Sound Transit. So the unfortunate experience is that they are often closed for long stretches of time. In the most recent refurbishment, each of the elevators out on in East Portland were out for 12 to 14 weeks each as they were being refurbished. And that's a significant challenge and a significant period where people would not have access to the esplanade from the bridge. So I appreciate that steps are going forward to make the bridge accessible in its new form, and I appreciate that the concerns of people with disabilities are being listened to, and I hope that'll continue to be the case. Thank you.
Next up, we have Sadie Walsh.
Hi, my name is Sadie Walsh, and I'm a 7th grader at Robert Ray Middle School, and I'm speaking today because I think the Human Access Project is an amazing organization, and I would like to help as many people enjoy the Willamette River as possible. Since I was little, I've kayaked on the Willamette with my family, and for the past 2 summers, I have been swimming with the River Huggers in the morning, and I'm one of the junior captains. I also help take care of the river by participating in HAP and Solve cleanup projects at Poets Beach and Cathedral Park. I love the river a lot, but it's not easy for people to get to it. It would be amazing if the city of Portland changed the east side of the riverbank to help more people connect with the river and enjoy the Willamette. I think this would benefit our community a lot because it's free to swim in the river. It's super fun to be in the water, and it's a really great way to stay healthy. I started swimming in the river when the public pools had to close because of COVID, and it's turned me into an open water swimmer. I love the fresh air and natural surroundings, and I just love being in the water. Swimming with the river huggers has also taught me a lot about the history of pollution in the river and how to help take care of the river as a community member. When I see the pictures of how the river could be opened up from an expanded Burnside Bridge project, I get excited about how many more youth and families would come to the river and have fun hanging out, floating in the river, swimming, and just enjoying the water. Thank you for the chance to speak today.
And that completes testimony.
Thank you, Mayor. What a perfect ending to testimony. I just did not want to lose our last speaker. Sadie Walsh, I believe, was our last speaker. Yes, thank you. I'm glad you're still there. What grade did you say you were in?
I'm in 7th grade. I'm 12.
You just have remarkable grace, remarkable presence in 7th grade, huh?
Yeah, thank you so much.
You are welcome. What's the plan for the future?
I'm not sure. I mean, I love being in the water, and I've thought about doing something like marine biology. Just, I mean, something with the water I would love to do.
Well, let me just say that I have Portland Fire and Rescue in my portfolio, and we do water rescue training. We have a couple of boats that actually have some of the best trained water rescue people working on it. So if you think about, wouldn't that be amazing? We would be thrilled to have you. I just could not let you leave without me just taking a moment and remembering myself at 12 and in the 7th grade, and not just really having a clue about the world outside of myself. So let me just compliment you. Your parents did you proud. You're doing your parents proud, I should say. And I look forward to you thinking about how you can become a member. There'll be summer employment opportunities. You're a little too young right now, but we should stay in touch because I think we have a future for you.
Thank you so much. That means the world to me.
Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, have a good rest of your day.
I will now.
Bye.
Mayor, thank you so much for that. That concludes the testimony.
All right, very good. So colleagues, I'll start by asking if anybody has any questions of staff. Commissioner Mapps.
I do. Later on, I'd like to address some of the issues raised by the Human Access Project. But before we get into that, I'd like to just get some background from staff on a couple of aspects of the bridge itself. One thing which is striking, I should say, I support this project. I think it's an important infrastructure upgrade and an important equity opportunity. On the other hand, how we get from here to there, I'm not entirely clear. So I believe the Burnside Bridge is going to be closed for 4 to 5 years as we upgrade, as we make these improvements. Has there been any investigation into the implications how that's going to impact the life of the city? Losing the Burnside Bridge seems like a big deal, and I have no idea how to wrap my brain around that.
Thank you, Commissioner Mapps. Megan, we were ready for this kind of question.
Sure.
Megan, do you want to take the first response?
Sure. We did have a team of consultants evaluate the impacts on other bridges due to the Burnside being out for so long, and it did not result in Carmageddon, and it seemed to be okay. And it's really just about people finding new ways to get to where they need to go. That being said, we are very committed in working closely with the other agencies advancing mega projects in the region. Like, for example, the Rose Quarter project is within our vicinity, and we anticipate working closely with ODOT's mega projects office, urban mobility office, so that collectively we do not shut down traffic in the central city. And I'll just allow our consultant team to also address the question, maybe with some additional details about our traffic analysis. They're way smarter than me, so I will ask Steve Drahota from HDR, design team lead, to provide any additional details that may be helpful.
Sure.
Mayor, council members, I'm happy to be here. I am definitely not smarter than Megan, as you heard earlier, but one of the realities of a temporary bridge is the fact that, number one, it has to be a temporary movable bridge. And so it's very expensive. Think of a set of erector sets that can actually move up and down to allow ship navigation to go back and forth. Because of that type of bridge, it would really only have been one lane in each direction. And so what that means is the comparison of a one-lane bridge in each direction to using the city of bridges, other bridges, really didn't amount to the kind of traffic impacts that one would have thought when we first started the analysis. So in truth, we're very lucky to be in a city that has a robust set of bridges that traffic can detour to. And so the impacts were much less than what was originally anticipated. And it saves the overall construction time by about 1.5 years, because the way you build this bridge, you have to do within water work windows, which would have taken another 1.5 years of overall impacts. So big picture wise, it's actually better from an economical standpoint and even a sustainability standpoint to sort of rip the Band-Aid off and get the bridge project done as fast as possible without a temporary bridge. Not the finding that we were expecting when we first started that study.
Okay, and that's great. I totally buy the argument that it's not worth the effort and cost to build a temporary bridge. And actually, the point of this particular question is, how is it going to impact businesses that are adjacent to the bridge or whose commerce and business relies on transit there? I know this stretch very well, and I don't even know the answers to this, but I can imagine you might be restaurants or bars or whatnot, which suddenly don't see the kind of traffic they do, or something. I don't even know how to think about the scope of the impact here.
Well, I can start off answering that question. It's a great question. We are fortunate at the county to be working with the adjacent neighboring businesses and key stakeholders for over 5 years, because if you recall, we did a $20 million maintenance project that did a general facelift on the bridge. We narrowed the traffic down there as well. So we've been working with key businesses that are likely to see impacts, such as Pacific Fruit, the Burnside Skate Park, also the hub of social service providers on the west end, like Portland Rescue Mission, Central City Concern, Salvation Army, Mercy Corps. So we have collaborated with them and figured out ways to adjust the design of our project to ensure that their operations, for example, the social service providers, will continue to operate as they do today. We've moved walls, we've adjusted, we know how critical the flow of people in and out of, for example, Portland Rescue Mission is key to securing their fire safety permits. So we absolutely do not want to block certain doorways. So we are taking all that into consideration. We've moved columns on the east side such that Pacific Fruit can still have their 24/7 access to their business. We moved columns to keep the skate park closed as least as possible. So we are working very hard to minimize the impacts. Of course, there'll be some, but we have really generated close relationships and are building on established trust in order to do the best we can to have the least impacts to the community as we build this project.
Cool. Well, I want you to know I support this project. I'm thinking about future members of council who are in office when this is being built, and whatever small business owner who says, you guys are going to kill, or you guys have effectively killed our business because of all the chaos that's there. I don't quite know how to think about it, and I'd like to develop some strategies to help those people before we get to that moment. Another quick question, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues who have their hands up. And this might be a PBOT question, although I'm sure the county knows the answer too. This project basically seems to boil down to taking 5 lanes of traffic and turning it into 3. It kind of depends on how you configure things. do we have any studies on what that's going to do to, how is traffic going to be different on the Burnside Bridge and related spaces before and after this project?
Sharon, Sharon, can you respond to that, please?
Yeah, I can. Thank you. So that is actually something that we are currently working with the county on. Both agencies have traffic modelers that are looking into methodologies related to how the merges would work at each end of the bridge. And so far, what we're seeing is actually promising as to what the traffic impacts or lack thereof would be spilling back from the Burnside Bridge. And then also looking at the reversible option, and still looking into all the considerations with that related to both traffic and safety.
So are commute times going to get longer or shorter? Maybe that's another way to put it.
Potentially a little bit longer.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Hurst. Unless you're using another, thank you, Mayor. I was just going to say, unless you're using another mode of transportation that actually gets you there quicker, as the end of the answer to that question. Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to go back to Commissioner Vega Peterson started us in this conversation, really talking about the importance of the Burnside Bridge to the city of Portland. And there's absolutely no doubt about that. And I know that there has been a lot of testimony between the elevator and the ramp, and it sounds like something happened in scoring the elevator that's changed that I am unaware of. So Commissioner Mapps was a real champion in getting us $20,000 during the fall bump to actually study the ramp versus the elevator option that had been moving forward. Has something changed in that process? Are we looking at both, or are we just looking at the ramp now?
So the county has evaluated both ramp and elevator options. We have heard strong preference for the ramp. In our supplemental DIS, we will present both all the data that we've analyzed from both options, but we are not making any decisions right now. We are partnering with the city to explore it further in the design phase, and we're really excited about the commitment from the city to fund developing a cost estimate so that we can go out and find funds for full construction. And Patrick, is there anything you'd like to add to that statement?
Megan, I think you nailed it. Yeah, we're looking forward to collaborating with the county team and in that next step of final design and digging into the options and exploring what the trade-offs are between different ramp concepts, different types of connections, improvements to the East Bank Esplanade. We've heard a lot of support for water access. These are all great opportunities to be explored and unpacked. So we have a lot to learn and a lot to look forward to in the next phase of the project.
Thank you so much for that. And I just wanted to be clear that the work that we're doing now will feed into the overall design, right? The engineer that we've just hired will actually feed into that overall design.
Yes.
The city of Portland just hired in partnership with this project.
Yes, the project, yes, the efforts that PBOT is undertaking, we'll work and collaborate with the county to help move all this forward.
And I just want to say that none of us know what the future of the waterfront is today. And I don't think anybody in this Burnside Ready Bridge project is anticipating us having that vision fully laid out between now and, as we move forward. One of the things I've learned in transportation is just how long it takes to get these projects from point A to where you're actually breaking ground into the dirt to make something happen. And so I'm excited about the potential, both short-term and long-term, and really appreciate the partnership with Multnomah County because, again, we're doing something to be ready so that when the quake happens, we will be able to withstand it. But we're also creating opportunity for what is possible as we move forward in the future and think about how we make river access available for all abilities all the time in the city of Portland. So I'm really excited about where we are. And thank you very much for that clarification.
Thank you, Commissioner Hursti. Commissioner Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you everyone for your testimony. We heard a lot from the HAP community, and I have a hard stop in about 10 minutes. So I just want to go real quick and get some things on the record. First of all, I'm all in for the ramp. I kept having that old spiritual down by the riverside, the entire testimony in my head. A few questions when we look back at the models and earlier, some of the renderings. I was really happy to see reversible lanes as part of the choices. I think a lot of us have been to other metropolitan areas that have been doing reversible lanes for a long time. So I wasn't surprised to hear that that's a new concept for Oregon, but it's great that we're entering into that century. Also, I was noticing that the flow models were favoring going east, and I'm assuming that's because it's the data was in the evenings or in the afternoons, and there's more flow going east. Is that correct? Because it was always like a 2-to-1 or 3-to-2. Okay, great. And yet there's a lot of flow that goes towards downtown in the evenings because of arts activities and such. So I hope that we just continue to look at that and make sure that we're clear that that's a safe model. Let's see. The study on the lane for buses, I recall that they run about every 15 minutes. Is that correct? Or do they run more frequently than every 15 minutes?
There's 3 lines that
so there's 3 lines.
Yeah, there's 3 lines, the 12, the 19, and the 20. And I'm not sure what each of their headways are. I do know that with the Rose Lane project that was implemented, that they did show an improvement in reliability.
Great. Just want to make sure that we have even more study on that. The last thing we'd want is if there's, one lane that's not moving and then, a bus isn't coming, but I just don't know the frequency. So it'd be great to have that type of data given to us, and we're pondering that. And then just from geeking out and reading about this over the years, the deeper you go into the bedrock, right, with the pillars, the better. So no cost cutting when it comes to the infrastructure for the big one. And thank you, Commissioner Vega-Peterson, for being here. I know that I can speak for, I'm sure, everybody that we're all in to be partners on this project. It's a big deal. Anyway, I don't know, are we voting before soon? I don't know what's happening. Okay, great.
We are. No one else has their hand raised. I've got a couple of questions after you're done.
I'm done.
Okay, good. The vote that we are taking today with regard to the IGA does what specifically? What are we agreeing to today? What are we locking in? That's a question for staff.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So the IGA amendment today specifically does 2 things. One, it adds 12 months to the terms of the current IGA because our current IGA is about to expire on December 31st. So we have to add time to extend the terms. And then 2 is if we're adding time, we have to add resources to pay for city staff time dedicated to work on the project. So that's not just PBOT, that includes parks and Bureau Planning and BDS and BES and Portland Fire and Rescue and PBEM and everyone. So we're adding 12 months, so extending the timeline, and then we're in the agreement also adds compensation for city staff for the time that they would charge for the additional 12 months.
And Patrick, what is the total fiscal?
It is a $500,000 of additional potential compensation for charges from city staff.
Got it. And so we are not locking in at all in terms of structure or design or any of the scenarios that were discussed today. Is that accurate?
That is absolutely accurate. This is an IGA decision in front of you today. There are no project design decisions. That's not happening today. That'll be a future council moment. But
got it. Okay, good. Then I won't ask questions. I'm going to put a couple of comments out there, and because they're not directly related to the IGA that's before us today. Number one, I want to thank Commissioner Vega-Peterson for being here today and giving us the county's perspective on this important project. Thanks for being here. Number two, I would like us to also think about this project in the larger context. This is but one of many bridges that cross the Willamette River. It's a small part of a larger set of regional infrastructure facilities. And I'm wondering if this is a 10-year project, $1 billion-ish, are we thinking globally about all of the projects that are before us? And do we have a plan for all of the projects before us? Number three, there is a massive funding gap on this project, and we have to be honest about it. The city and the county have worked together. We've put our piece into this, and I'm greatly appreciative for that. But obviously, this project will not happen without state and federal support. And so we need to really start talking clearly, publicly, and honestly about what that required support is going to be. And we have to understand that we're asking for that support at exactly the same time that this bi-state discussion around a Columbia River bridge is also being discussed. And that will also require a heavy lift on the part of both our state and our federal partners. And so we need to start having some sort of a concerted effort to discuss with our state and our federal partners how we're going to do both of these projects simultaneously. And then last but not least, well, maybe second to last, I want to pick up where Commissioner Mapps left off. We're talking about the cost savings, and you said it could be up to, I think it was $165 million in cost savings by shrinking the width of the bridge. But I just want to remind everybody that population growth estimates for this region continue to show that the state of Oregon and the metropolitan area are going to continue to be destination locations for people. So even if people reduce their reliance on vehicles, 50 years from now, we could still have far more vehicles on the road. They may be zero emission vehicles, but there's still going to be a demand for transportation. And I'm hoping that as we think about infrastructure, we're not thinking 5 years or 10 years or 15 years out, but mindful of the fact that our grandchildren will be old age before this bridge is replaced again. And so just want people to be mindful of that. Last but not least, it's maybe just an expression of aesthetics. This bridge is central. There were all kinds of cost savings on the Selwood Bridge. I support all of those. But a lot of the grand original designs of what the Selwood Bridge could be ultimately went by the wayside in favor of a very utilitarian span, which I think in that particular case was fine. But a little bit of uniqueness in terms of design, in terms of aesthetics, in terms of acknowledging the place and the location of this bridge, I think is a worthy expenditure. And I would hope that we continue to think about that as we go forward. If we're building for 100 years or 150 years, let's build something that is indeed as iconic as the city in which we live and expresses the kind of creativity and innovation that we want to see front and center, right smack dab in the middle of our city. So I hope we don't cut too many corners in the name of cost savings when there really is a benefit, an ancillary benefit to being iconic in this particular moment. So those are my thoughts. Anybody else, any questions before we call the roll? Seeing none, Keelan, please call the roll.
Maps.
Let me start by just thanking the county for their leadership on this incredibly important project. I also want to express my appreciation to staff for their informative overview, and I also appreciate all the testimony that we heard from the public today. I think what I've heard is a resounding consensus, both from the city side, the county side, and the public. Everyone agrees that this is a mission critical project. I think everyone also agrees that it's important for us to be mindful of equity and river access. And as the commissioner in charge of the Bureau of Environmental Services, I want to say that there couldn't be a better time to actually pursue access to the river. Thanks to the wisdom of the people who were here before us, the river is cleaner today than it has been at any time in our lifetimes. And I can tell you, given some of the projects that we have coming up, like the Superfund, the river will be even cleaner in the future. This is the perfect moment to make sure that Portlanders can have access to the river for recreation and meditation. So I really want to express my appreciation to the county for taking this ramp piece of this project seriously. To me, this sounds like the right way to go. And for those reasons and many others, I'm glad to vote aye.
Rubio.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty and Commissioner Vega-Peterson and the Multnomah County and PWAT teams for bringing this to council. I really appreciate the thorough presentation. This is the third time being briefed, and each time I get excited about the increased safety and potential access possibilities connected to this project. I also want to appreciate the many advocates, and especially the enthusiasm of Willie Levinson and the Human Access Project, and all the community members who've been involved with this project and have come to City Council to testify. The Burnside Bridge is clearly a critical part of our regional infrastructure, and especially in the case of a seismic event, we need to take care of this really important Portland feature. And the multiple voices of advocates and stakeholders from every part of the community are helping to shape this. It's very evident in even how we talk about the project. So it's really great. But it's also very necessary to have this involvement to get it right for the community. It's also great to see so many cross-jurisdictional and sector partnerships taking place to ensure that we're accurately reflecting the community needs. So I look forward to seeing the outcome of the ramp study, and also I'm eager to look at the funding plan and also see how we're going to, as the mayor said, how are we going to enlist the help from the state and the federal government as well. So thanks again for this great work to date, and I'm very happy to vote aye.
Ryan.
Yes, I made a lot of my comments while I was doing some dialogue a little bit earlier. I gotta go. I'm just gonna say aye, and I'm excited, and let's move this forward, onward. Aye.
Hardesty.
Well, I certainly want to start off by thanking Multnomah County Commissioner Vega-Peterson for being here today, and not just today, but being a strong partner with me since my first day as Commissioner in charge of transportation. And the mayor asked earlier, well, who's talking about all these transportation projects? And the answer to that question is we are, because we serve on JPAC together. We're also on our I-5 bridge replacement committee together. We also are part of the Rose Quarter projects. We also are talking about the 82nd Avenue project. So if there's a table where there's a transportation issue, I can count on Commissioner Vega-Peterson to be there and be a strong advocate and support of the values that we share as the city and the county. It has been a pleasure bringing this to this point. The city is so committed. The city committed our DMV revenue sources for eternity from the beginning of this project. And we did it without hesitation. And so, yes, are we vested as the city? Yes, we have put our money where our mouth is. Are we done? Not even close. And I also want to thank Willie and the Human Access Project. I love that man. Anybody that you can say no to 500 times and he still smiles at you and still comes back with new ideas. That's the kind of energy I love to see in the city of Portland. So I'm very happy to vote aye.
Wheeler.
Well, this has been far more entertaining than I thought it might be today. And I appreciated it. And I appreciated particularly the depth as well as the breadth of the public testimony we heard today. And Willie, I always appreciate your vision. And your vision is a bold one. And you'll recall we were having a little bit of fun early in my mayoralty. I actually swam my ballot across the river. And I did that because I wanted to make a point about the river. The river for too long has really been a chasm that divides us east, west, and in other ways as well. And Willie and others have always had this vision that the river should be a gathering place. It should be a place that brings us together, not a place that divides us. And the way that manifests itself is through new opportunities for people to come and gather at the river, even swim in the river, or just come and feel that there's a space where people can spend a little time, meditate, play with their family, whatever it is they want to do. It's also a place where we're in the city of Portland, we're really proud that we invest heavily in habitat restoration. So as one person who was swimming in one of the mayoral swims on the river once said to me, the goal is really to swim with the fishes. And I thought that was really just sort of the greatest way of putting it succinctly, that we see an opportunity here for the way the city gathers, the way the city accesses, and the way we really view our waterfront as an area of commerce, as an area of recreation, as an area of contemplation, and a place where people to come together and where our habitat can continue to grow and thrive. And Willie, you've been the linchpin of all of that. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it and how much I've appreciated being part of it. So thank you for that. With regard to the earthquake-ready Burnside Bridge project writ large, this is an absolutely necessary step for creating safe access across the Willamette River for Portland residents, not only during times of an emergency, but in fact, every day. This is a project that will provide critical infrastructure for emergency services and first responders to provide aid, communication, and support to our entire region, both on a daily basis as well as during that long anticipated but certain to happen mega event. The new Burnside Bridge also presents an opportunity to activate the East Bank Esplanade, highlight the city's carbon reduction goals, our sustainable transportation options, and continue to beautify this city through intentional architecture and placemaking, as I'd indicated earlier. We have a long way to go, and we all acknowledge that, and we must continue to work together. And this IGA lays the foundation for the city and the county to continue its great partnership on this really important project. Thank you to Multnomah County and to the city's Transportation Bureau for collaborating on this important effort. And thanks to you, Commissioner Hardesty, representing the city of Portland in this effort. Thanks to all of you for continuing to find creative ways to fund the remaining investment needed to complete this project. As I indicated earlier, we can't go this alone. This project must be recognized by state and federal partners as a funding priority, or it will not happen. I look forward to the continued partnership with Multnomah County, and I am happy to support this emergency ordinance. I vote aye. The ordinance is approved. Thank you all. Keelan, that completes our business this afternoon.
Yes, it does.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the day. We are adjourned.
Thank you.